Hello and welcome to episode 1, series 5 of the Green Queens podcast.
We are your hosts, Imogen Bogle, and she's Abbie Dewhurst.
Yes, she is. And she was also just telling Imogen Bogle before we got on that we have gained quite a few new followers on the old socials between the end of series 4 and the start of this juicy series 5. So we thought it would be a really good thing to do to kick this series off with a little allow me to reintroduce myself. In fact, the podcast as ourselves, both of us, we're both going to do a little reintroduction. So Imogen Bogle, who on earth are you?
Well, I was about to just give you my date of birth. I don't know why. I felt like suddenly I was at the GP surgery. Well, as you mentioned, I am Imogen Bogle. I am obviously one half of this fabulous podcast, but also in my main job, I am Chief Content Officer of a YouTube channel, which basically means I run the team. I'm also a presenter and producer on that YouTube channel where we focus on loads of techie stuff to do with sustainability. So lots of electric vehicles, lots of clean energy, lots of interviews, interesting locations to do with everything in that space. So if you follow me on social media, you can expect to see me doing this podcast, driving EVs, and then probably donning some kind of elaborate PPE with a hard hat on.
Yeah.
In like, I don't know, maybe underground, maybe up a wind turbine, you name it.
Yeah, you're like the YouTube version of Inside the Factory, aren't you? You're doing a lot of factory tours, and whenever I like talk about you to people that don't know you, or even people that do know you, I feel like I have to tell you this because I don't know if I should be saying this, but I'm so proud to have you as a friend because you're a great person, but also you're so impressive. You're one of the most like unexpectedly impressive people I think I've ever met, and please take that as a compliment. Because I mean it well. But I always say, you're going to hate me for this. And did you know she's actually an aerodynamics engineer? Because you are. You went to Oxford University and studied aerodynamics engineering. Like, that is the most impressive sentence I have ever said. And so the fact that you don't have that in your intro, you should have that on a t-shirt. You should have that as your Instagram bio. And I think we should feed that into the Green Queens podcast intro in some way.
Well, maybe I'll just say, hi, I'm Imogen Bogle. I studied engineering. I did do engineering and I did go on to be an aerodynamics engineer at Jaguar Land Rover. I spent an extensive amount of time in this wind turbine, or this like wind tunnel, sorry, in Stuttgart with a man called Mark de Boer. If you're listening, Mark, hello.
Where's Stuttgart? In
Germany.
Germany, okay.
A fantastic wind tunnel there. Others are available. And then I spent a lot of time in design in the automotive world. So I've just been, busy being nosy. But I will caveat all of this by saying, yes, I did engineering at Oxford and did do quite well. But I am just generally more interested in talking about it. And I have like so much genuine fascination for how the world works and how things happen. But yeah, I love talking about it. And I love trying as best I possibly can to make other people as excited about, well, last week, for example, I was looking at high temperature turbo machinery at a petrochemical plant in the Netherlands. So, varied.
Very varied. But I love the fact that I didn't study anything actually at university, but certainly not engineering. And yet you have such an amazing ability to explain things to me. And I think there's so much that can be said about that particularly as a storyteller and as a presenter, but I have been in so many rooms where I have been made to feel stupid, and it really annoys me because I'm not stupid, but I don't know what all these big words mean. But I think so often people use these big words when they're just unnecessary, because I then go away and Google them and I'm like, so you could have just said sound, and instead you said something different to make me feel small and make you feel big. So you're great at just bringing it down to the level that we all appreciate.
Well, then it's mainly through the medium of food analogies, I will confess. But I do think that is the power of when you're talking about anything, it doesn't matter what it is. If you are using big words and not trying to make it understandable to, let's say, an intelligent 12-year-old.
Yeah, me.
You're just not doing it properly. And I think it's really exclusive and unfair. But on that note, you are a fantastic communicator of all things technical climate, and you didn't do aerodynamics engineering, but I don't feel you needed to because you do so many fabulous things.
Oh, bless you. Thank you. Well, yeah, my name is Abbie. I am an intelligent 12-year-old. Is genuinely how I feel in my life. And actually, that's a good benchmark to wake up in the morning and be like, do you know what? Today, I'm just going to be an intelligent 12-year-old. And that is an achievement if I get to the end of the day. But no, I somehow have managed a decade-long career working for the BBC as a weather presenter. So I started working for, I mean, I did all sorts of odd jobs in the BBC before I got into weather. And this is my most asked question ever. How did you get into the job that you do? So quick synopsis, I essentially made the tea, answered the phone, set up the guest, did all that kind of stuff, like worked in the technical behind the scenes stuff, did a lot of like community radio, didn't know anything about the weather, was always totally fascinated by it, and I was that weird child that would literally never want to come in the house. My mum had to like put the plate of dinner down on the table and like click her fingers to be like, Abbie, eat your beans, to get me inside. I was always like catching butterflies and just like laying in a cornfield and stuff. Very Theresa May of me.
I was just about to say.
We're on the same page. So then this job came up as a weather presenter and I was like, oh, that's cool, although I have no experience. But when I spoke to some of the team about it, they were like, yeah, you don't need any. You can just get all your training on the job. Better really to have like, to be a natural communicator and storyteller. That's the kind of stuff that you can't really teach, whereas you can learn the science. So managed to get this job when I was 22. So I was actually the youngest weather presenter that the BBC has ever employed, which is mental. And my nana reminds me of that daily, which is very sweet. And then got all my training on the job at the Met Office. And somehow 10 years later, I did 8 years of doing that full time as a staff employee, getting up at like 3:00 in the morning.
I cannot even imagine.
I know. And there is a limit on how long you can do that for your own sanity. And it turns out for me, it's 8 years. So I went freelance a couple of years ago, which is great because it's allowed me to just like gain some level of non-jet lag. I have a little bit more creativity. It's allowed me to work on slightly longer form projects like the Green Queens podcast. And this literally came off the back of me desperately trying to find something that was entertaining, informative, interesting, a little bit kind of touch point science, girl chat, nature, and messaged you on Instagram and was like, hello. We didn't know each other. We just followed each other and occasionally would just like what each other were doing. So I sent Imogen a DM and was like, I think we could be friends. And thankfully you were like, I agree, let's have a chat. And so we did. And thus the Green Queens podcast was formed. And we're a year in. This is our 1 year anniversary of the Green Queens. And we've just had a great party to celebrate that with Cupra, the car company who very kindly sponsored this amazing dinner at a fabulous restaurant called CO₂e, which is I mean, how would you even describe CO₂e? It's a fusion of all these different cultures, isn't it?
So CO₂e is just, you must go there. You need to be willing to have saved up some pocket money because it is not cheap. So thank you, Cupra, for footing that bill. But it's founded by an incredible woman called Ravinda Bogle, not a relation of mine. Although I told my father-in-law this and he was like, you could be.
Yeah.
Like, it's not impossible because so Bogle is a name that comes from an area of northern India. Many people from that area then went to Kenya, and then many people from there made their way to the UK. That is what her family also did. That's what my father-in-law's family also did. And along the way, obviously, you know, the fusion of different inspiration of flavors comes to fruition. So she really celebrates that kind of journey across the world and how food is such a way to communicate our culture. So it felt like an amazing place to have our first birthday party because it was that celebration of culture, community, of, you know, different ideas, different flavors, etc.
Yeah, and it was such a blast and such a nice way to like celebrate 1 year, one whole year of podding. And we hope to get Ravinda on the podcast because this is what we do every other week. We have a sparkly little guest that is in some way linked to the world of climate or sustainability or nature or just is just doing amazing things in the world of, I mean, making things a better place, making our world a little bit less scary, because this is what we do. Every week, you and I are going to sit down and pull apart all the things in the world that can feel a little bit scary, a little bit overwhelming, and just make them a little bit more palatable, a little bit more, I mean, hopefully interesting, and just cut out some of the noise and some of the nonsense, maybe with a glass of wine or two.
Yeah, yes. And, you know, we are your sparkly little climate friends in your ear holes. So we hope to bring you much joy, much hope, and hopefully just equip you with a lot of juicy nuggets along the way that you can share down the pub and feel very smart. So,
yes. And little tiaras, very, very welcome in this podcast.
Big tiaras. I'm going to get a huge great crown.
Of course you are. So what are we going to talk about this week?
Well, we have two stories today. I want to tell you a little bit about Earth Percent, which I will explain a little bit more about that later. But I think
you're in the music industry, is it?
Yes. And also how you credit nature as an artist. But you very appropriately, I think, have a story about Valentine's Day.
I do. I mean, I must just also caveat this by saying it's rained a lot, hasn't it? We get it. It's taken a different, I think I'm about at my peak. Where are we? We're recording this on the 12th of February. And as somebody that actually, I'm pretty sure that I do suffer from SAD. this has been a test for 6 weeks to keep the morale up, hasn't it?
Mm-hmm.
So let's just acknowledge the massive dripping wet elephant in the room. I can't be a weather centre and not. Yeah, go on.
So I was shooting in Wales this week, not shooting animals. I was shooting camera shooting.
Footage, yeah.
Footage, there we go. Just to make that very clear. Anyway, we were in Wales. It was very wet. We knew it would be. And to be honest, on camera, it gave a very Scandi noir kind of feel, which is great. But I was alerted to the fact that in Wales, it has rained at some point every single day for the past 68 days.
68, is that right? I mean, a lot of the UK, Scotland, Northern Ireland, England, Wales is rained every single day this year. And but what's great is that there is going to be one day where the whole of the country gets a dry day with at least a little bit of sunshine, and it just so happens to be on Valentine's Day this year. Yes, I know. So Saturday, the 14th of February, is going to be a really beautiful day. And I kind of feel like that is Mother Nature's way of being like, just celebrate love. Doesn't matter who it's with, if it's with your dog, yourself, your best friend, your husband, your girlfriend. But just don't buy into the consumerism. Like, look at what is going on with our climate at the moment. You know, I know it sounds awful, but it kind of, sometimes I'm pleased when the weather does this. Not this, obviously, I don't want anybody to be affected by flooding, but when you talk about the fact that a warming climate is going to mean warmer, wetter winters, and then the stats kind of back it up, it's scary, of course it is, but it does allow me to say to people who are like, oh, great, I love warmer weather. But look at the other impacts of that. Like, climate change isn't just sunny summers where we can all have an Aperol spritz at 3:00 in the afternoon. This, unfortunately, is the reality as well. And so I had this stat. So in terms of like warming global temperature wise, often it's talked about, 1 degree, a half a degree, and it can feel like tiny and not something that's going to make a huge impact if we get, so what if the world warms by 1 degree? But a 1 degree Celsius temperature rise means that the atmosphere can hold 7% more moisture. So it is a huge difference. And we are literally seeing the impact of that at the moment. What we've seen at the moment is essentially what's called a blocked weather pattern, massive area of high pressure side of Scandinavia. Our jet stream isn't quite strong enough. Our jet stream is like this fast flowing stream of air that sits however many miles above the earth, and it drives our weather. And normally it's quite kind of energetic and it pushes things through west to east, but it's not energetic enough at the moment to bump this area of high pressure out the way. So we're just stuck in this really like relentless rain pattern with low pressure driving things. I know all will change, do not fear, but it has been quite depressing, hasn't it? To put it bluntly.
So I think I really do suffer with SAD, and I think I just operate best above 24 degrees Celsius when I'm wearing shorts. That's just how it is. And what's been extraordinary, and I realise that I'm such a flipping idiot for this, I don't want to spend my money on things or for circumstances that I don't enjoy.
Yeah.
So right now, I've been wearing a cagoule that I received free. Or received as part of a job that I had 8 years ago. It's perfectly adequate, but it is very heavily branded with that previous organisation. But I'm like, I do not want to spend my money on a weather condition I don't enjoy. So I cannot tell you how many raincoats I have saved on Vinted and just haven't followed through and purchased, even though they're $15.99 on Vinted, which is like exceptional value because they're high quality coats. I just can't bring myself to sort of buy it. So I've been enduring this weather, not only annoyed about it, but whilst wearing a heavily branded cagoule or being incredibly damp. So lesson learned, I need to buy a new rain jacket.
And you know what? I think that sums it up. I just think I really had to tell myself at the beginning of this year, lean in, Abbie, lean in. And I obviously thought I was leaning in for a week. I didn't anticipate 6 weeks. And I'll be totally honest, the lean is getting harder by the day, but I am still leaning in, and I'm very much channeling the mindset. And I've done a whole social media theme on this. The weather is not miserable, you are. It is a mindset thing. I'm trying to do nice things. I'm trying to go for a nice coffee. I'm trying to light the fire in the afternoon if I'm working from home. I'm still going for a walk, even if it's raining, but I am wearing my raincoat, or I am taking an umbrella and I'm wearing my wellies. Like, I'm just really trying to lean in, and whether that means that you might have to buy yourself some better equipped clothing to do so, then please feel free to do so, because the difference it has made for me has been really quite astronomical. Like, I genuinely don't remember the last time I went for a walk in the rain when I didn't have to before this 6-week period. And the difference it's made from me being like, nope, we're going regardless. It's just once you're out, the difference it makes to your mind, and it's clarity. It really is. So I can highly recommend a walk in the rain, as cliche as that sounds.
Well, what I need to do is to channel both you and also Drew Barrymore and purchase a rain jacket from Vinted and stop sort of leading on all of these people who've listed them with my likes and inquiries about prices. And they're like, for God's sake, are you going to follow through or not?
Yeah.
I need to follow through.
Do you know what? Can I just say on that? When I like something on Vinted, I don't want someone to message me. How do people have the time to, when you like something, then they message and they're like, hi, babe, just letting you know I can post this today. Okay, babe, if I wanted it, I would have bought it. Thank you. Leave me alone.
I so agree, because then I feel somewhat pressured, but I so admire their hustle.
Yeah. Yeah, I guess there is an element of that. Fair. I do as well. I kind of feel like responding and saying, how do you have the time to do this? I'm in the bath, leave me alone. Anyway, that was a huge, great diversion on the weather, but we had to address it.
And we're going to have good weather on Valentine's Day.
On Valentine's Day, exactly. And this is where I really do feel like, again, as with everything, it's just consumerism gone totally mad. I tried to dig into like, when did the red rose become a thing? Why is that synonymous with Valentine's Day? And it's always been related to love in some way due to like Aristotle and, stuff that went on way before our day.
Philosophers.
Yeah, just those guys, I don't really know. But it really is just consumerism. Like it's the 2000s or our century that have done this essentially. Like it's just when it started to get pot and greeting cards, and when Clinton cards back in the day. Is that still a thing? Do Clinton cards still exist?
Do they still exist? I think they do. But Moonpig, we've got other options about funkypigeon.com, all those things.
Washed up cards, may we say, also by somebody who's on the Green Queens podcast and who came to our first birthday party, Flora.
In the notes.
Yeah, link them in the notes. If you want a sustainable Valentine's card, it might be a bit late, maybe an Easter card, I don't know. But Flora picks up litter from the side of the River Thames and then makes greeting cards out of the plastic that she finds. So
they're awesome. They're great. And she is awesome. She's really, really great.
She is awesome. But when it comes to roses, like it's really not a thing. It's just a thing that we made up and that people selling flowers made up. And the vast majority of them are imported from Kenya. One bunch of red roses, that is 12 stems, 75 kilograms of CO₂, which is ginormous. Like that's what our husbands weigh, not collectively, probably individually. And they'd probably argue that it's a little higher because they like themselves. But
I was going to say, Jake would definitely say that he's 86.
Yeah. Oh no, Jake would start with an 8 too. They've named themselves Trap Kings. I just can't even.
Oh my God, their little bromance is really brewing. So just for context, for those who are new to this, we are both married to men called Jake. You're married to Jake. I'm married to a man called Deep. And in order to support us, they felt it's very important that they become friends, which has been very sweet. Deep actually sent his very first voice note ever to Jake the other day. Not voice note to Jake. It was his first voice note ever. I've never received one from him.
No, have I? But I just so happened to be in the room as Jake was listening to it, and it was the cutest thing.
Just so sweet. But they also, not only do they always like shout out and like always make sure to share all of our stuff, which is extremely appreciated. But we're Green Queens, so they were like, oh, we can be Trap Kings. And just for the avoidance of doubt, we're not talking about trapdoors. We're talking about muscles.
Yeah, or like entrapment or anything like that. No, they, for some reason, like of all the muscle they could have picked as well, they went for Trap Kings. So anyway, I think it's safe to say that they would assume that they are heavier than 75 kilograms, and no doubt we'll both be getting photos of scales that we'll probably have to post to the Green Queens Instagram just to prove something. But my point being, that is a ginormous amount of carbon for one bunch of flowers. It's enough to half fill an average indoor swimming pool, and I think probably the same sort of equivalent of like 170 to 190 mile car journey.
Wow.
So would you drive 200 miles for a bunch of flowers? No. So how do you feel about roses and Valentine's Day? Like, what's the take in the Bogle household?
So I do love flowers. I do. I think they are a really lovely thing, and I think even better if they've been, they're wild and whatever. Often I'm away traveling with work though, so I feel like if ever I do get flowers, it's such a waste because I'm not there to enjoy them.
True.
But so we are a big fan in our household of handmade cards. I get weirdly like slightly obsessed with it. I'm trying to think if, I'll show you this one actually. It's behind me.
Okay.
So Deep is follically challenged. He doesn't have a tremendous amount of hair, so he
The
really
poor
enjoys.
man.
I know, he's really getting a battering in this. So I photoshopped. Well, there's two people that he's very jealous of because of their hair. One, Jacob Elordi. Two, Austin Butler. Both of those people are referred to exclusively in our household as stupid, sexy Austin Butler and stupid, sexy Jacob Elordi. And I'm like, Deep, this is coming from you. This is not coming from me. However, I did Photoshop him onto this card. And if you are listening to this podcast, I have photoshopped Deep's face onto Austin Butler's face. So he's sporting Austin Butler's hair. So
He's
we're
got
big
a bit of Zayn Malik to him with the hair.
It does actually, doesn't it? So yeah, we're big fans of homemade cards in our household. How
That's
about you?
sweet. I mean, I'm not surprised because any excuse, I've never known somebody whip out Canva and Photoshop things on more so than you. How about us? I'm sort of the same. Like, I don't not like flowers. I don't want to sound ungrateful, but they wouldn't be my number one. They feel like quite a lot of maintenance. I am a chaotic person. I abuse my future self. I don't plan very well. I don't organize very well. Having something else on top of the usual day-to-day stuff to look after and clean up after as well. This sounds so ungrateful, doesn't it? But the water gets smelly. I'm aware that then I have to clean the vase. The water needs to be changed or taken out. Like it for me, it's admin. I would rather receive a plant, I think. And that's one thing that the RHS actually suggests is a good alternative to a bunch of red roses, to buy somebody a rose plant, like that, or even a cutting. We have a really nice rose in our garden that we could, is it called germination? When you cut a bit and then you give somebody it. Yeah. And that's a really sweet idea. I like the idea of giving somebody something that will grow and that they can have for a really long period of time. But yeah, they feel quite wasteful, and it's lovely. And actually, when I have a house full of flowers, if it's, been an anniversary or a birthday or whatever, I come down and feel very kind of brief and Desperate Housewives, but that just isn't who I am as a person. And after a week, I'm looking at them and I'm not loving what I'm seeing with the brown water and the leaves and the mess and the smell. So
you've just reminded me, because this is, again, sorry Deep, if you're listening, you're getting a real showcasing this episode. He received a present from a recruiter, and I cannot tell you how spot on this present was from this job recruiter. And it was a very cheesy message that came saying, "It's been amazing to watch your career grow." And in this present was this little glass vial and an acorn. So obviously it was like an analogy for watching his career flourish and grow. So what he had to do was to help germinate this acorn. So it had to be like folded in this damp cloth for a few days. He would check it every day. It had a little sprout. Then you put it in this glass jar, in the top of this glass jar, and you see the roots grow. And as much as I've teased him about it, it's been extraordinary watching these roots grow. And he has so much love and care and attention to this acorn. And I said to him, I was like, "Oh my gosh, this would be a fantastic present for like a 10-year-old.
Yeah.
And he was like, or a 37-year-old man. But I think something like that's got that ongoing care and love, like any kind of plant, I just think that's really, really thoughtful.
I agree. And I obviously have seen the acorn and I have seen it grow, which maybe it's an analogy for the podcast as well, because I almost feel like he probably got it not at a similar time to when I first started coming round. So I've seen the acorn grow. I mean, it's quite the conversation starter when you're having a cup of tea, I will say. So that is a very sweet present. But yeah, we're just not really we're not typically gushy people. And I know that this sounds, I don't want to be like, "Oh, my relationship's amazing," but it is. And we are very in love, annoyingly. And we have lots of great romantic opportunities. That sounds weird. We love a shag. No, our life is quite lovely. We go on long walks most weekends. We cook each other nice dinners. I don't know why I said that. I don't cook. Jake cooks me nice dinners, and we're very thoughtful to one another day to day anyway. So this whole great show on one day where everything's a bit more expensive, I don't really get, but I still like to market in some way. And this year, what we have said is, let's plan a beautiful, big, long walk. It's going to be the best day of weather that this year has seen. If that isn't Mother Nature's way of saying, sod off the roses. I don't need that much. I mean, the stat on how many are sold is crazy. 250 million stems are sold globally. That's started from the British Flower Association. And according to Sustain, there's 360,000 tons of CO2 just associated with red roses. Like, go for a walk. That is Mother Nature's way of saying go for a really romantic, take a flask of tea, take some biscuits, maybe even do like a homemade picnic or something. I just really think that this is a weird, I'm not a big spiritual believer. I'm a very pragmatic kind of person, but I can't help but think that there is something a little bit spooky going on here, and that one day that involves such a boost in emissions and so much unnecessary consumerism is also going to be really beautiful weather-wise when we have been so desperately longing for this rain to stop. It's a sign.
And I would just say, for anyone who's like, you know, loves Valentine's Day, I was kind of thinking about it because, like, I was like, oh, do you know, I feel so lucky that Deep is very thoughtful every day, and I try and do nice things as well. I feel like
every now and again.
Every now and again when I'm here. But there are some people who life is so busy. Life is just extraordinarily busy.
Good reminder.
Your ships in night. And it is a good reminder to be like, do you know what? We really love each other. And whether that's your romantic partnership or like your friendships, your dogs, whatever it is that you love in your life, like, it's great to have those moments in time to be a little bit more thoughtful. And personally, this Saturday, I've got 2 of my oldest girlfriends coming to Oxford to stay for the weekend. And I know that the weather's great because I was like, oh, it'd be amazing to get out of the house, do a proper walk, be able to catch up properly on that walk. And that is what we're doing, and I can't wait.
Well, Deep's more than welcome to join Jake and I in third wheel, or I can be the third wheel in that situation.
They'll just like send each other voice notes in a very coy way from different rooms in your house.
But no, I totally agree, and thank you for getting me off my high horse of Valentine's nonsense. It's not that I don't, it's not that I'm not here for it, and I totally get it, but it's just that I really do believe that, again, it's just been like, I can't help but always picture TK Maxx in these situations and just the hellhole that it is. Don't get me wrong, I love a Mad Max rummage as much as the next person, and it very much used to be my solace, but now I find it quite overwhelming, and how much they lean in with their annual plastic nonsense. I always think of the seasonal side of things there, and it kind of scares me and makes me feel itchy.
Yeah, do something sustainable, resilient, thoughtful, whatever that looks like for you.
Yeah, and if flowers are your bag, we are both going to be eating our hats when a massive bunch of red roses arrives on Valentine's morning. I know my husband, he won't have done that, so that's fine, but apologies in advance, Jake, if you have. But in terms of like, if you were to buy a bunch of 12 locally grown seasonal stems, 1.4 kilograms of CO2. So the comparison, 1.4 kilograms versus 75 kilograms of imported red roses, it is a no-brainer. I'm looking at the snowdrops in my garden as we speak and thinking he could fathom something out of those.
Oh, it is. That is something that, so I've been in very, very rural Wales. I've actually been on the shoot. There's one road that goes from Llandudno.
Yeah, beautifully said.
Thank you very much.
I think it's actually clan.
Well, it's spelt sort of, it looks like it should be Llandudno. No, Llandudno. And this A470 goes from the top to the bottom. And to see all of the snowdrops, it was just really gorgeous to be like, oh, spring is springing. It's just creeping through.
Yeah.
So,
it is. We went to Shaftesbury at the weekend in Dorset, and apparently that is the home of the snowdrop. They have a national snowdrop festival every year where they like all hail the snowdrop and they plant a load of bulbs and stuff. I had no idea.
And they dress up as snowdrops. I saw this on your Instagram.
Yes. Anyway, like we digress.
I have been desperate to tell you this, and every time I've like gone to text you, I've gone to say this and then forgotten. So here we are. I'm telling you this back now. You were in Studland Bay in Dorset.
Yeah.
Which has been on the news. I've just thrown my pen in excitement. It was on the news because obviously the weather's been really stormy, and typically they have the wind going in one direction, which means that the sand dunes build up on that beach. The wind has been going in the other direction and has sort of, meant that the sand isn't like so high. Okay. And it has revealed a shipwreck that's over 400 years old.
What? We didn't see it?
I know. I think it was like the day after you left.
Oh, of course it was. Do you know, that is funny because when we were there, we both said, I mean, even though it rained the entire time, it was very kind of, it felt quite Twilight-esque, a bit misty and murky, and like it was very romantic walking in the rain on the beach. But we both said how weird it was to be on a beach with no wind. It was the stillest day, even though it was raining, because Jake and I are both from the East Coast. We're from like Lincolnshire, Grimsby area. And when you walk on the coast there, if the wind is in the wrong direction, it is so cold. Like a northerly wind on a beach on the East Coast is flipping freezing. And so we're used to that, like you walk in one direction, then you turn around, you're just getting battered by the wind. So we both acknowledged how weird it was that there was just no wind and it was so still. And we were sort of talking about, I guess, with it being a bay, maybe we're a bit protected. Had no idea. That's a great little nugget of information. I'm going to go and immediately Google Studland Bay shipwreck.
Everyone's been extremely excited. Shall I tell you that story too?
Yeah, because I've wrangled on long enough.
No, but yours is far more important given that this episode is going out on Friday the 13th. Ooh, unlucky for some. But with Valentine's related stuff. So what I wanted to bring to your attention is something called Earth%, which I'm just going to have a look at my notes here. But basically, it is the music industry's climate and nature foundation.
Okay.
And what it means is that artists who sign up, they give a portion of their revenue to climate related causes. So a lot of nature restoration and biodiversity type stuff. And they can do that in a number of different ways. For example, they could just do an amount of their revenue. They could do dedicated merchandise where all of the revenue goes from that to nature related causes. Perhaps it's one event, perhaps it's a percentage of their streams or whatever. But it's incredible. Like it means that, there's an element where if you're being skeptical, you could be like, well, it's an ESG box. They're like, oh yeah, look, I'm supporting nature. That's great.
Yeah.
But so many artists have actually signed up for this. And not just kind of like obscure names that you sort of expect, but people like Sam Ryder, Hot Chip, Nick Mulvey, Celeste, loads more. Lots of names that I also didn't recognize because I am not cool.
So you're like Bad Bunny. Who is Bad Bunny?
Bad Bunny that 60 million people have watched on the YouTube.
The bunny that's bad. Yeah, go on.
Bad Bunny, if you're not signed up to this, you should be.
Yeah, we know he listens.
Well, yeah, obviously he keeps DMing us. He won't leave us alone. It's we both got asked to be trees.
We did. I know. We just felt like we could justify the emissions, and
Yeah. Ugh. Sorry, bad surname Bunny. But so it's a really cool organization, and I just love that these things exist. It gives me a lot of like hope and heart that there are music artists who just deeply care about this stuff and are willing to give up a significant portion. They can choose the portion, but in some instances, a significant portion of their revenue. But the thing that's been really interesting to me, and I was hearing this on BBC Six Music the other day, is that as part of this whole initiative, and this has been going on for 3 years now, you can actually credit Planet Earth as your co-writer.
Stop.
And a number of people have done this. So again, like Aurora, Laura Mish, Fraser T. Smith, loads of many more artists. And they're saying that, the planet, Mother Nature, it is one of the best natural influences out there, and that it hasn't had a credit. So, if there's any kind of soundscapes, for example, you can credit Earth as your co-writer. But it has gone one level deeper.
Okay.
And so there's an initiative that's been led by the Museum for the United Nations, UN Live, and they've launched a campaign called Sounds Right, which they are working very, very closely with this organization called Earth% that I mentioned earlier. And basically, if you feature any sounds from the natural world, then 50% of those recording royalties that feature nature will go to conservation and restoration projects.
That's amazing. And I think there's a lot of chatter a lot of the time, and I saw it off the back of the Super Bowl actually, where this thing went viral. I think it might have been Greenpeace that shared it, so we'll let them off. But it was around like footage of private jet flights leaving the Super Bowl, and I can't help but think that's really interesting and good to highlight, but it sometimes can then put people in a position of feeling like, well, what's the point then? If that why should I not buy red roses on Valentine's Day if everybody's getting a private jet to the Super Bowl? And there's a lot of talk around that with artists. Why should I think about getting the train to the Taylor Swift concert when she's jetting all over the world? But actually, the artists often don't really have like a right to reply when all these memes are going viral and everybody's slandering them for not caring about the environment. I'm so sorry, my dishwasher has just kicked into gear and it's very vocal. Can you hear that?
I can't hear that. That is the magic of AI, I think,
Right.
just eliminating that noise.
Excellent. Where was I? Dishwasher interrupted me.
They don't really get like a right to reply.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And a lot of the time, these very viral, like very opinionated messages or, you know, X's or tweets or Instagrams or whatever, it's just saying these people in the music industry don't care, where actually they're so busy. They have a job. They have an important job. Their number one priority isn't probably saving planet Earth, but give them a really easy and simple way of doing so, of actually caring, of actually giving back. And they're going to opt in for it. Or like the vast majority hopefully will, and some great big ones already have. And I think, you know, Billie Eilish is a really brilliant example of somebody who uses her platform really well. But we can't always expect, just because somebody's a brilliant singer-songwriter doesn't mean that they also need to be the best role model in the world. I don't believe that. But it's a classic example, I think, of like, make something really easy, make it the easiest option for people to also make a sustainable one or make a green one or whatever it may be, or prioritize the planet, or even think about the planet a little bit, instead of it being this negative, preachy thing. And oftentimes people are going to take that option anyway. So I think that is an amazing example of that in practice.
Well, I think that's exactly it, because let's take Taylor Swift as probably the most obvious example here, that she had her emissions from her private jet usage were huge, astronomically huge.
And therefore went viral, because easy clickbait.
Of course they did. What didn't go quite as viral is how much value she brought to individual economies. So if a city was to host a Taylor Swift concert, the benefit to that economy was the equivalent of hosting the Olympics.
It's mad.
Yeah. Equally, you know, for every venue that she played in the UK, she donated more food to food banks, or money to food banks, than the Conservative government did in the whole time of their rule. And also, I think this was true of 2024, or maybe it's 2023, but if there had not been Beyonce, Taylor Swift, and one other female artist that I can't think of now, the US would have slipped into a recession. So in terms of the impact that these people are having on an economy is huge. Secondly, like, we have to think about what the role of music and art is to make us feel, to think, to act. And so whilst it's very easy to point to the private jets, and it's great if people can do things to reduce private jets, Ed Sheeran gets commercial airlines, etc. Like, ultimately, they are doing a global job, and that comes with
emissions,
some things that are not perfect. What I think is so great about this is that just through virtue of making their music, they can do something good for the planet. But more importantly, as a listener to that music, just you streaming that song
makes you feel good.
Yeah, you are also ensuring that that money is going towards these great causes. And I think this introduction of soundscapes from nature being incorporated into music, and then being able to be credited and to receive royalties across like biodiversity channels and stuff, it's just a great way to actually start thinking about the soundscapes that exist in the world. And I think I've had my ears open to the fact that Earth Percent now exists, and so I've then been picking up where it's been mentioned a few more times. And there's an artist called Richard Walters, and he's involved in this Solent Seascape project, which also like got my ears thinking, because the Solent is where I grew up, and his music is trying to sort of capture the soundscape of the Solent region. So there's like, you know, different sounds of the ocean, of like even like grass swaying, of the birds, etc., and like making that part of the music. And of course it helps make the music beautiful, because what is nature? Well, it's quite nice, and there's a reason that we draw so much inspiration from it. So I just thought it was cool that these things are happening, and just through virtue of listening to music, you can do something good.
Yeah, no, I really, really love that. And I, when you brought it up to me earlier, I looked on Instagram, and I am following them, but I feel like the Instagram algorithm is so bad at actually serving you the things that you follow. So I need to go and engage with some of their stuff, and then I'll get more information from them. But we should do a little deep dive to see if there's somebody that can talk to us about any of it on the pod.
Ellie Goulding, hello. We know you would obviously love to listen to our podcast, but she is across all of this stuff.
Yeah, she'd be a great guest.
Grammar, so too is Aurora, so too many other people. So if you're listening, or if anyone is listening who knows any of those people,
get tagging. Yeah, you don't ask, you don't get. Well, it's a bit like the Bad Bunny situation on that, because somebody messaged him to ask if he would perform at their wedding, and he was like, "Oh, I can do better than that. Fancy getting married at the Super Bowl." So classic case example of you don't ask, you don't get. But just very quickly on like the nature sounds in music, I'm watching a really good series at the moment, which I would highly recommend, Pole to Pole with Will Smith. It's a National Geographic series, and it is literally where he travels over 100 days. He just kind of treks and makes his way from pole to pole. I'm sure that the emissions from that were rather large, but it's a brilliant show. And the episode that I watched last night, episode 2, was from the Amazon jungle, and he references the sounds. He's like, the Amazon jungle is popping off, and it's like a little rap that he does from all the birds and the nature and stuff. And like you say, all it takes sometimes is for a little nugget of information like that to be planted for you to then see and hear and like view the world differently. So this time of year, little fact also, with February, it is when birds tend to be the most vocal in this country, because there's no trees, there's no leaves on the trees. It's like a very flat environment, so their chirps and cheeps and things, the sound travels further, so they really make the most of it in this country. So the bird song's good this time of year.
Do you know what? I was literally just about to say something that has made me a little bit more optimistic amidst this very, very wet weather.
Yeah.
Is hearing the birds. I have like opened my window in the morning and like literally popped my ear out and been like, can you hear that? That's amazing. And I will just say that has been maybe the most beautifully serendipitous thing about being involved in this podcast, is that, you know, obviously separately we work in sustainability. We talk about sustainability all the time. But the benefit of having this conversation, having the space for this conversation and learning facts from yourself is that it makes me just more open and aware to things like birds are more vocal in February.
I know. Just call us Mary Poppins. What can we say? Is it Mary Poppins, Feed the Birds?
Do you know what? I reckon I have that song in my head maybe like once a week.
Okay, I have a Mary Poppins related Feed the Birds fact. So I did amateur dramatics when I was growing up. I mean, this is not a fact, it's just a piece of information. Exactly. The least surprising nugget of information you've received all day. And I was meant to be playing the bird lady. Does she have a name? I don't know. I was singing Feed the Birds, tuppence a bag. And I ended up having this very weird virus when I was about 8 years old, where I had fluid in my legs and it was so painful. Nobody could really get to the bottom of it. It was just basically a cold that worked its way into my system very strangely. So I just essentially had to rest, like lie down for weeks until it went. But of course, I mean, a true artiste never says no. So I had a little wheelchair that the hospital gave me while I was with fluid in leg, and I got wheeled onto the stage. The show must go on to perform Feed the Birds, tuppence a bag, and my mum sat in the audience crying as I, on my deathbed, performed in such a way.
But you know what? What is so funny to me is that the lady who sings, the crazy bird lady from Mary Poppins, that is not a casting I would have guessed, because she's obviously meant to look very old, very haggard.
Had a shawl on.
Exactly. So I think actually you being in a wheelchair allowed you to really embody that character. It feels very appropriate that she was in a wheelchair.
I am the most natural method actor to have ever existed, and I just didn't know it until I'm sort of reflecting on that. Maybe I'm in the wrong career, but I had to get that in. We tried to stick to 30 minutes for this episode. We're currently at 40, just coming up to 47 minutes of the recording. It'd be really interesting to see what the final edit of this one comes out at. But welcome back. I've missed you. I've missed this.
Oh,
can't wait for the next one.
I have so missed not having this standing date in my calendar, and
Same.
We have some big plans for this year. I absolutely cannot wait, and it's going to be big. And you know, we've got plans to grow. If there is anyone listening who is interested in supporting these two Mary Poppins artists, podcast is doing something that we believe to be important and interesting and fun, then do get in touch, because we will accept your money.
We are open to conversations. We are having some already. Like you say, we've got big plans this year. So if you've listened to this, or if you've just started following us on social media or whatever it may be, if you've made it to the end of this unhinged chat, please please subscribe, please comment, please tell a friend. We're growing slowly and surely, and we really, really want to just build the greenest girl gang around.
Well, on that note, we will see you all next time.
We'll see you next time. Happy Valentine's Day to you and to our queens and to the planet.
Yay! We hope you enjoyed this episode of Green Queens.
If you did and you'd like to hear more, we'd be so very grateful if you could like,
subscribe and join the Green group chat for weekly episodes.